Much has been said about the public's deep, ongoing fascination with superhero movies, and rightfully so. At the time of this writing, Avengers Endgame is tracking to generate more than $2.5 billion globally, with little signs of slowing. They're seen by most as a necessary escape from the grim realities, unrelenting politics, and social drama of today, and in turn by some folks as a modern replacement for Greek and Roman mythologies. A true cynic would characterize them as a toy commercial for adults who like playing with toys, barely worthy of deeper examination. Personally, I've always been interested in the second interpretation, but would go one step further to say that superheroes and even the gods and monsters that they're based on actually exist as modern parables. They illustrate various aspects of the human condition in a way that, not unlike the aforementioned mythologies many of us are still familiar with today, appeals to a broad segment of the population. For example, you could argue that ancient Greeks and Romans literally believed in Zeus, Ares, Hades, Hera, Artemis, etc. Or you could argue that it's technically possible that the statues and paintings and stories and songs could have been something around which an entire entertainment economy was built. I don't know, just spitballing here. Every one of those characters very specifically represents various aspects of what it means to be human. Zeus represents the fallibility of the father, one who attempts to project omnipotent rule while frequently publicly failing. Ares, who is not exactly the most popular of gods, represents the danger in giving oneself wholly over to violence and ill temper. He was pretty much the Incredible Hulk of ancient Greece, which might explain why neither of them have ever been able to carry a solo picture on their own. Maybe if they put Ares in glasses and a sweater, he'd be more likable, I don't know. Personally, I really dug the Professor Hulk thing, to be honest. I don't know, I can't be the only one, can I? DC in particular seems to have always had an ongoing fixation with building their own pantheon of godlike heroes, with Superman obviously serving as their Zeus, Wonder Woman as Hera, Batman as Hades, Aquaman as Poseidon, the Flash as Hermes. You get the idea. They could not have been more obvious if they tried. But therein lies a small problem, and it's what I suspect makes DC characters a little harder to relate to than their Marvel counterparts, drawing a barrier of relatability between the reader and the character. It's probably why we saw so little of Captain Marvel in Avengers Endgame. She's so powerful that it throws everything out of balance. At least the Greek gods were family by blood, and that's where a lot of the more relatable drama comes from in those stories. The primary heroes of the DC universe, however, are not even that. In fact, the families are usually dead or non-existent, never mentioned, or at the very least, frequently retconned. Superman's idea of what it means to be human is basically this.
Well, hey there, fellow newspapermen and ladies, it's me, your old pal Clark Kent. You know, local dimwit, noted coward, dunce reporter, nothing else, certainly. Nothing else. Well, what am I doing? Oh, look at this. Oh no! I've spilled coffee all over myself because I'm so stupid and weak that I can't even consume the thing that I require to make it through my boring, useless day without bungling it in the process.
Everyone loves Wonder Woman right now because she's an ass-kicking character that had a pretty good standalone movie, but can you imagine knowing someone like her in real life? She's basically never had a job, never paid rent. She's basically a princess with a type A work ethic. Like, imagine the most wealthy person you have ever met, then imagine that they're also like really into CrossFit. That's Wonder Woman. I'll bet Wonder Woman can't go an hour without bringing up her combat training regimen. Batman's no better. Batman is pretty much like a trust fund boomer going around kicking the shit out of poor young people in his pajamas at night because he's sad. All this to say, there's some really interesting stuff going on there, and I think there's merit to examining it further. But it's this unrelatable element that has always driven me to be more of a Marvel guy and might explain why they seem to have more universal appeal at the box office. The thing that really stands out about the Marvel characters is that as unbelievable as the powers and the stories always are, the characters themselves and their alter egos always felt more relatable, like someone you could genuinely imagine existing in real life. For example, Superman and Spiderman both have a similar "with great power comes responsibility" theme. Superman, however, is a little bit more focused on the power, whereas Spider-Man is focused on the responsibility part. There are not usually any meaningful repercussions for Superman being involved with something or not. The classic interpretation of Superman acts because it's easy and out of a sense of duty ingrained by 1950s era set of ethics. He can't really be harmed or die. He spends most of his time with other superpowered beings. The classic interpretation of Spider-Man, on the other hand, acts to protect his friends, his family, his neighborhood. He lives at home. He goes to school or work and finds time to fight crime somewhere in between. He probably gets less sleep than Superman if Superman even needs sleep. Does Superman need sleep? Spider-Man is relatable to men and women who do the thing that they have to do during the day and the thing that they actually want to do at night. I think we can all agree that Spider-Man is also about puberty as well.
Peter?
Yeah?
Are you alright?
I'm fine.
Hollywood execs sure are fixated on that kind of stuff. I wonder what that's all about. The Fantastic Four is a group with a pretty universally appealing message that the execs at Fox fail to grasp repeatedly, which is crazy to me. Each character's representative power is pretty obviously based on their most deep-seated hang-ups about themselves. Sue Storm feeling invisible, Johnny being unable to control his temper or his ego, Ben becoming as ugly on the outside as he feels on the inside, Reed trying his best to keep the family together and sort of involuntarily being all over the place, literally and figuratively. But it's what they collectively represent that's the most interesting. They're essentially the traditional American nuclear family and all the values that entails, working together to ward off the threat posed by a hostile foreign power, be it Dr. Doom or Galactus or Annalise or Kang the Conqueror. Usually a strange and foreign outsider that, regardless of how different the Fantastic Four may seem to each other, actually poses a credible threat to their very way of life, the happy and familial existence that their bond and their background has afforded them. It's borderline xenophobic now that I think about it, but they've historically been written with a humor and a self-awareness that takes most of the edge off that particular element. Characters like the Punisher and Wolverine are another interesting example to consider, being sort of the prototype for the anti-hero character so prevalent today. Often on the wrong side of good, these characters serve to highlight the moral ambiguity of being a hero. They challenge the moral pornography of a caped hero appointing themselves judge and jury of who or what needs punching out by taking that one extra step and becoming executioner as well. Where do you draw the line in your own judgments? These characters, for the first time, made readers consider how far they were willing to stretch to justify vigilante behavior and to question the motivations and the humanity of not only the heroes but the villains as well. There's just so much one can draw from the pantheon of Marvel characters. Captain America is about 1940s patriotism being frozen in time and then released in a modern world where that has a very different meaning than it did then. Silver Surfer is about loneliness and guilt and how to live with that and how to find redemption. Galactus is about being a slave to your desires even when they conflict with everyone else's. The X-Men are obviously about racism. Minus the rights to the X-Men, up until recently of course, Marvel has tried their damnedest to have you believe that the Inhumans are also about this, but they're not. They're about classism, obviously. Iron Man is about armoring yourself externally against your own inward weakness. The Vision is about what it means to be human. He's basically the literal embodiment of an existential crisis. Taken as a whole, the characters in the Marvel Universe serve as avatars to explore what it means to be human through the guise of the superhuman. Which is not to say that DC does not, only that Marvel tends to be a little more on the nose about it, that's all. Now I read a lot of both and I appreciate them both for different reasons, but it's pretty clear to me that the more human the characters seem, even when they're aliens or robots or mutants or whatever, the more general audiences see themselves reflected in the stories and want to engage with them on a deeper level. And that, I think, is why superhero movies have so fully captured the attention of audiences all over the world of all ages and demographics. And as easy as it is to be the cynic and talk about Peter Panism and the dumbing down of art when every movie that comes out is about lasers and muscles and capes, isn't art intended to be a gateway to a deeper examination of meaning and purpose and the human condition? Do superhero movies at their best not accomplish at least some of this? Do you agree that today's superheroes are tomorrow's mythical gods? Are DC heroes just a skosh too serious? Had Stan Lee and Jack Kirby been using readers to work out their own deep-seated psychological and philosophical issues through their characters for decades? Is that kind of stuff so over the heads of kids that maybe comics should just be about people in tights punching each other and leave it at that? Am I just a closet Marvel fanboy or am I onto something here? Let me know in the comments below and thanks for watching. I'm your pal Jeremy, see you in hell, and keep it locked to IGN.